Ultra MAGA, Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA. Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA.
Who came up with this phrase Ultra MAGA? Why the need to kick it up a notch?
Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, or libertarian. They would say Comic Dave Smith is Ultra MAGA. They would say Robbie the Fire Bernstein is Ultra MAGA. They're libertarians. They would say Ron Paul, Rand Paul. Kim Iverson, guess what? You're Ultra MAGA. Congratulations. Join the club. It will be fun. You'll feel better. Embrace it. I'll make a Kim Iverson branded Ultra MAGA shirt for you. MAGA doesn't mean what it used to mean. Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. Nico House, one of my favorite YouTubers, and Fiorella and Pasta and peasant journalists, you too, you're not exempt. You're Ultra MAGA. Will Cormier, you're Ultra MAGA, friend of show. River, you're Ultra MAGA. Congratulations, whether you liked it or not. If you don't agree with the Disinformation Governance Board, you are Ultra MAGA, whether you like it or not. Welcome to the club. Embrace it. Have fun with it. This week, in a Thursday interview, Wheeler, the head of this PAC that lied, conceded that it was wrong when they insisted this photo of another woman in a bed was her. That was the photo with the woman that looked like she came out the 70s in Las Vegas. It was wrong when they claimed Boebert initially failed to disclose a campaign contribution from Ted Cruz. It was wrong when they suggested Cruz made a big contribution to Boebert's campaign immediately after she started running. It was wrong when they got the date of her accident wrong. It was off. And it was wrong when they said she had an abortion in the fall of 2004 with the most generous interpretation that would only give her 6 months before you said she had an abortion and when she gave birth to her son. Something that would take 2 seconds to verify. Is this online gender-based harassment? Would this fall under the purview of this group, Ms. Kamala Harris? I demand an answer. So Caitlin Johnstone basically is coming up with a thesis that China is not I don't want to put words in her mouth, but my impression is China is not an imperialist nation, basically. But I tweeted this. It said China's secretly building a PLA naval facility in Cambodia. That's the People's Liberation Army. That's China's army in Cambodia. And then what she got me on is Western officials say. So this is where she triggered me. She was like, you're literally doing the exact thing I just said, word for word. Please tell me you at least blushed a bit while doing this. Oh, okay, Kaylee. Okay. Okay. She's trying to come at me a little bit like, okay, you dumb bitch. You retweeted CIA propaganda. Okay, you got me. I was going to let it go. But then you're like, okay. She was like, check yourself. But here's the thing, Caitlin, you're not giving me any evidence. So yes, I cannot independently confirm that. Like, who's gonna break that news? Caitlin, China? Like, who else is, like, a country in the East that subscribes to Eastern philosophy? Are they gonna break that news? For some reason, you think China is so loving and they aren't really aggressive. What about Xi Jinping? Is this savage enough for you?
中国人民
At the same time, the Chinese people will never allow any foreign forces to bully, oppress, or enslave us. Anyone who dares try to do that will have their heads bashed bloodied against the Great Wall of Steel, forged by over 1.4 billion Chinese people.
China could not get troops in our country to forcibly take down a statue of Thomas Jefferson from New York City Hall. They couldn't do it if they wanted to with force of military weapons and guns. They use philosophy. This Maoism that we are falling victim to, this neo-Marxism, it's originated from China. They fund our institutions, whether it's the universities that teach the teachers and set all the platforms for the country, and was where all the people you would pick to run for politicians, they get taught in this ideology. Entertainment, we just talked about Star Wars. We can't even enjoy a damn Star Wars TV series without critical theory. It's not even Star Wars anymore. Just like a creative way for Ibram X. Kendi to get his thoughts out there.
What did you say, nigga?
It was written by slavers and colonists and white people who were willing to make deals.
1, 2,
with
mic check.
slavers and colonists.
What did you say?
Mic check.
It's kind of trash. It was
Spider sense start tingling.
They said it's a comic book for hate groups. What's your reaction to that? They said it's a comic book for hate groups. What's your reaction to that?
It's to be expected. There's a lot of things that are wrong with this industry. It's not just with the content per se. Even the economic model is very archaic.
Yeah, I dreamed of being a comic book artist since I was a little boy, and I worked my way up. It was so hard. I made it to DC Comics, made it to Superman. My little boy dream came true. They made him woke. They got rid of his American citizenship. They said that truth, justice, and the American way doesn't matter. So you guys reported on it in October. I famously walked off the book, and that was a big deal. And soon after, I met up with Eric, and we started working on ISOM together. And I also made another book with another Warner Brothers DC Comics veteran, David Williams, and we created Truth, Justice, American Way as our love letter to like your classic Avengers, Superman, Batman kind of stories. So that's going on too, and working on ISOM with Eric has been amazing.
But I also come from escaped slaves, okay? The people who weren't going to live under tyranny. I also come from a long line of civil rights activists, people who stand up when it's time to stand up, and they say, no more, I'm not going to kiss the ring, I'm not going to bend the knee, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. That's the spirit that we have to have right now, and I definitely have it, and I want to spread it to you.
What's good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. AZ Patriot is here. Friend of show, long time. Thank you everybody for stopping by. We're going to get into the what I had to wake up to. Every Sunday there's something that pops off on Twitter. And I understand Twitter's social media, but it spreads to real life. It represents the discussion for those who are really engaged. AZ Patriot says, what happened to the tip jar? That's a sad emoji that I need to do. I got demonetized, AZ. Nothing content like strike wise or anything like that. I've been kind of lucky that YouTube hasn't really been messing with me on strike type of stuff. I uploaded a lot of rebroadcast stuff like TikToks. If I'm on TikTok and I see a dope TikTok that I think people on the channel might think it's funny or whatever, might be pertinent, I just upload it to YouTube. It's not monetized, but I didn't think about it that when you apply to be monetized for YouTube, they go through and see how much of your content. They don't tell you what percentage or anything. They just look through to see if you're just re-uploading stuff. You can re-upload stuff, but you can't be monetized and just do that. You have to edit it. You have to add something to it. So it's nothing. YouTube didn't do anything wrong. It's on me. So hopefully I will be able to apply again by August 21st, and I will have to think about that, AZ. You can do other platforms, so let me by next week I'll be able to say, hey, here's an alternate way to do a tip jar or super chat. But I'm hoping by December, end of the year, YouTube will get around to looking at it, and so I deleted all the videos that were just straight uploads. So thanks for stopping by. A lot popping off. A tweet that came out today that really embodied why I even started the channel. I want to talk about that. The main thing I want to talk about is this LP New Hampshire tweet. Nothing against them. I'm providing feedback. I don't know who's running the tweet. I have recently become I don't even know the inner workings, so I'm not going to, say stuff that I'm out of school on, but I have become a member of the National Libertarian Party because of the movement that I've seen from the Mises Caucus. And I want to talk about, there's so much to talk about with the misstep. This is a social media, and that can happen. So I'm not knocking libertarians, I don't know much about the Libertarian New Hampshire account, but they made a mistake. And even if you agree with them, it's still a mistake. So even beyond, I don't agree with them, And on top of that, regardless of whether you agree with them or not, it's still a mistake, and I'm going to get into that as well. But you might be surprised. I didn't expect this to happen. Let me just talk about this. I mean, I literally tweeted this before I jumped on this live. Hopefully the audio's doing well. Let me see. Yeah, hopefully the audio's doing well. I'm going to share. This is why I started the channel. This tweet here, there's a couple tweets I'm going to show you. Oh, and they represent part of the reason. But when I did these tweets, I didn't know what the populist right really was. But it's the same essence for why I started the channel. Michael Tracy, he's kind of represents that Caitlin Johnstone type. I guess they're left, or I don't know. It's hard to describe people. They'll have to describe themselves, but I look at them as they try to be leftist, like populist left is what they come across to me as. So I wasn't even trying to flame Michael Tracy. I like Michael Tracy. I like Caitlin Johnstone as well. But Michael Tracy and Caitlin Johnstone, and a lot of people, the LP National Party, New Hampshire account, they don't understand the populist right. They don't understand it, and I'm here to help you. You can ask. So there's not many areas where I come strong and they're like, I have an idea what this is about. I have an idea about what the populist right is about. I'm pretty good on that topic. Michael Tracy tweets, the ideal scenario for Republicans seems to be that Pelosi ends up not going to Taiwan, after which they can blame Biden for weakness, appeasement, and bolster their case that they're the ones who will most aggressively confront China. So this is in regards to the leak. Nancy Pelosi never said she was going to, has never announced that she's going to Taiwan. Ever. She has never announced that. This has been leaked by who? Who knows? And what he's saying is, if she doesn't go, so China came back and said, if you want problems with us, like kinetic war problems with us, go ahead and send your girl to China. They don't care how big her bazungas are in China. They said, you take her to Taiwan, we consider Taiwan a part of China, and her bathing suit and all that, y'all can get wrecked. That's what China said in response to it. So my thought on it is, Nancy Pelosi, there is not one good reason for Nancy Pelosi, get on a Zoom call. There's not one good reason for Nancy Pelosi to go to Taiwan, other than to taunt China. There's no good reason for it. Absolutely unnecessary. But I also say China said we have no choice. They use this vague language, but almost like words are violence. It's almost like Nancy Pelosi going there is violence. Nah, China, you're gonna have to do what you got to do, but own your response. Don't try to pass it off like, oh, because she went there, we have no choice but to do something to her plane or to start a kinetic war. That's stupid. So both can be wrong. And Pelosi is saying Republicans, they will say if Pelosi doesn't end up going that she's weak. And I agree, some might do that. I listened to War Room. I didn't listen to the last, actually it's been the weekend, so I haven't heard it since last week. So I'll be interested to hear what he said. I don't know what Bannon has said on this, but it's possible that they would say that shows weakness. But what I wanted to clarify for people, I have a typo, of course, in my reply. But I wanted to make it clear. I wasn't trying to even come at Michael Tracy. He just said Republicans, and I want to make it clear that the populist right, and many people listening to this channel might be libertarians, might be populist right, or just independent thinkers. It's probably everyone who's been pushed to that alternate space is probably who this audience is. People who are not afraid to question the status quo from the corporate agenda of Democrats, Republicans. So you probably understand this. I just want to make it clear. The populist right is non-interventionist. The populist right does not want war anywhere. The populist right does not want civil war here, does not want war with China, does not want war with any country, period. So I just want to make that, I just wanted to add that. I didn't even come at Michael Tracy. I kind of come at Caitlin Johnstone a little bit. Nothing disrespectful, but I've been more forceful. With this, I wasn't even coming at Michael Tracy. I don't even know why that's a controversial statement. It would only be a controversial statement if you don't understand the populist right, and this is the perfect topic to start with to get into the Libertarian New Hampshire. It's NH, so I always think national. It's the New Hampshire account. So it's the perfect place to start. So that's all I said from Tracy. And my take on it is, Tracy, I call him Tracy, but if you didn't understand that, all you had to do was ask a question. That's all you had to do. But no, this is Twitter, so that's not what happens. So he came on top of me with a quote tweet and said, "I have no idea what the populist right is." Then you should have paused right after that and stopped and asked a question. You're a journalist. He's just an independent journalist now, right? He's a Substack independent. Wish him the best. He starts with, "I have no idea what the populist right is." Then you could have just stopped right there. There should have been any other tweet, because that's what we're talking about. That's what I was talking about, was the populist right. And you start with, "I have no idea who the populist right is." Then you should be asking a question, not making a statement. There's many things I'm not an expert in. Like I was just talking to somebody about day trading today. I was like, I'm a buy and hold guy. I'm not a day trader. So you can help me out or talk to me. I'll listen to you. That's not my thing. That's not my lane. So I'm asking you for what your opinion is. But he goes on, except as some fictional non-interventionist prototype. Fictional non-interventionist prototype. Right. So I'm just making this up. Have you been living under a rock, Tracy? Like, the populist right might want a strong military, and if you're a libertarian, you want a strong military. You want a strong, not police force, but private security. That doesn't mean you want problems. That's two different things. So Michael Tracy continues that people on Twitter have invented in their heads. So he's saying that me and you watching this, we have just invented the populist right in our head. Wow. He said Steve Bannon is one of the most hardcore proponents of fomenting outright regime change in China. That is accurate, but not the whole story. Is he populist right? Michael, I want regime change in America. That doesn't mean I want war. Get it? I want a new president. That doesn't mean I want foreign countries intervening. Doesn't mean I want a secret type of plan. I want it done through the process. Steve Bannon has never, ever, that I have listened to him, ever said he wants a kinetic war with China. The exact opposite. That's what the trade policy was, Michael Tracy. The populist right take is we have to win the informational war, that's not bullets and tanks and ships, and the economic war to avoid the kinetic war. That's the take, Michael. If you don't understand the populist right, just ask me. I'd be glad to help you out. It's only been the most powerful political movement in our country for years now, and if you disagree with me, tell me a more powerful political movement. There is none. The machine is corporate politicians. That's not a movement, it's the machine. You might want to study it, Michael. If you need to look at populist right strategy and ideology, Donald Trump isn't even the one to look at. Donald Trump is the mascot. Donald Trump is the guy who beat Hillary. Steve Bannon couldn't have beat Hillary. Marjorie Taylor Greene, we didn't know who she was at the time, most of us. She couldn't have beat Hillary. Like, no one could have beat Hillary, probably. I mean, who would have beat Hillary other than Trump? He's the face. He's the mascot. He didn't even know what the word populist meant. Go back and watch the Bannon PBS interview. Bannon tells the story. I played the clip on one of my previous videos on the channel where Bannon tells the story. He told Trump, like, I think you could be I'm paraphrasing, you could be the face of populism. And Donald Trump says, what's popularism? True story. He has no ideology. You don't understand this thing. They think it's a cult. A cult. Trump has been booed multiple times over missteps. He's been criticized multiple times over Dr. Oz and these other endorsements and the pandemic handling. It's not that you can't question them. Just understand what it is first. One of the top people, I would say after Trump, even before Bannon, because she does have political power, Marjorie Taylor Greene is who you look at. Here's a thread from her. She said, while we support Tehran's democracy and staunchly oppose China's ridiculous aggression, no one respects a woman who won't stay home and take care of her own house. She refused to defend the Capitol on J6, refuses to defend our borders, and refuses to protect children. Does it sound like Marjorie Taylor Greene is advocating for war? She says, why is it so important that Speaker Pelosi go to Taiwan? Why is she putting our military in the middle and responsible for defending her life? Instead of staying in America and solving problems afflicting our people, she's provoking war with the unpredictable Communist Party. This is the populist right, Tracy. There's not many of them in D.C., but there's a lot more than the populist left. You have none. She goes on. She says Pelosi is so self-absorbed that she's willing to risk nuclear war and sacrifice our great military lives just so she can go to Taiwan to deliver U.S. taxpayer-funded corporate welfare to foreign companies. I'm sure Paul is so excited about his portfolio gains. Americans had enough with women obsessed with a woman obsessed with her own power. She's helped for decades while our entire country crumbles, and including her district. I'm sick of selfish, godless politicians. We are not the world police or bank account to siphon money for every globalist cause. You should focus on America first, American citizens first. And if anyone dares attack U.S., then we teach them the most brutal lesson they could ever possibly learn and not hold back. But enough of this fake courage defending democracy. Let's clean up and defend our house. That is not warmongering. That's why I started this channel, because I see people who, they're very knowledgeable, like Tracy, very smart. There are people who I looked at as smart people who went out in the streets protesting along with this Black Lives Matter movement. And I said, I'm not with you. I don't know what it is yet. I don't understand what's happening. What about the pandemic? There's inconsistencies here. What happened with Floyd? Then I see the full body cam with Floyd. I'm like, this isn't the cause. What's happening? Now we have to get to the LP, New Hampshire. Sorry. Mic too hard. I got a little animated. Usually my voice is low. I apologize. It's probably breaking up. So I turned it down now. Sorry about that. Got a little animated. So here's what I woke up to. Hopefully the volume sounds better. I'm not usually that loud, so that's unusual. But sorry, it was crackling. And I have my levels right here too. There's no excuse. But here's my thing. And I'm gonna show you what got me with the Libertarian New Hampshire account. Again, this is not to attack the account or anything like that. It's really feedback, and I was upset with how they handled the situation, because I don't think they obviously don't know the populist right. And some people were mistaking this as you can't criticize Trump. I'm like, that's not, you're completely misunderstanding the argument here. And let me go back to Poso. I'm going to jump back to the chat after I find this to make sure the levels are good. I'm probably I'm less animated now, so might even have to turn it up if I get too soft. So this happened. I woke up and I saw a tweet from Jack Posobiec. If you don't know Jack Posobiec, he is the most powerful populist right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene is more powerful, but I don't think so, because she's doing more legislative stuff. Her personal account is banned, so she has to be careful on the public one, and a public servant account. But if you don't know Jack Posobiec, he's actually filled in for the War Room. He's probably like the backup guy for the War Room. He's cool with TPUSA. He's extremely connected. I think he's the most powerful, influential, populist right account on Twitter. And he's a former intelligence guy, I believe. I'll have to look up I don't want to misstate his resume, but former military, just like Bannon is too. And that causes people to question them, which is perfectly fine if that's what they want to do. But they got into a back and forth with this powerful account. So I follow Jack, and I have like a Twitter list just with Jack tweets, because when he tweets, he's very careful to only tweet when he has the upper hand in a discussion. So if you go out and you criticize Trump's response to the pandemic, which I have, he's not going to pretty much interact with that too much, because he knows he doesn't have the upper hand on that. So if he's quote tweeting you, he feels like he's got the upper hand on you. That's the number one reason why he's doing it. So I woke up and I saw this tweet where he had started talking about the libertarians in general, just a generic libertarians. And I'm like, oh shoot, there's overlap with the populist right and the Libertarian Party. So I'm like, great, this must be a good thing. That's the only reason, if I were running, just hypothetically, not to say I could or I have any qualifications, hypothetically, if I was running a libertarian, not that I even would want to, if I was running a libertarian official account, I would only want Posobiec to retweet me if it was in agreement, even though I don't agree with him on everything, because I know that's a difficult fight to win unless I really, really seriously have the upper hand. So when I saw libertarians in general come out of his mouth or from Twitter, I was very, very happy at first, because I saw the libertarians. So here is the tweet, Jack Posobiec. This is the tweet I woke up to. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I saw the libertarians. I was like, oh, and it's Poso. It's probably giving them props. The libertarians sharing a video of Trump wildly out of context just shows how scared they are about him running and winning again in 2024. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? So I don't know the account that initiated this, but I'm going to go and find and show you how this whole thing initiated. And it initiated with a video. You might have seen this clip about Trump and it's a surprising short little quick, and this is good. This is Posobiec retweeting Michael Malice, who's an anarcho-capitalist. So that's good. So it kind of was a roller coaster ride. This is him quote tweeting the Libertarian Party, but this is the tweet here. Jack Posobiec says, taking a 3-year-old video completely out of context. I don't know who this dissident account is. That's not the Libertarian New Hampshire. They never started, they didn't tweet the video. But here's the video that started the discussion, and here's the problem. Would you agree with the Libertarian New Hampshire account or not? And what they're going to get to is they believe Trump is controlled opposition. That's a strong statement. Very, very strong statement. That's different than questioning his pandemic response. You can question his pandemic response like I do, and I say DeSantis was an executive and did better. You can question it and then also be like, no, I don't think he's controlled op. So they're two very different takes. But here's the video. Very short video. Hopefully there's no echo here. Oh, shoot. So this is the video. Let me double check it. It looks like I got kicked out of my... Okay. So yeah, so I'm still in there. So if I just want to double check that there's no echo. This is the video from Trump, and if you can't hear it, it's Trump saying that our favorite Santa Claus. It's Trump saying, and I believe this is in 2020, but it is the before times. I believe it's him giving credit, saying Santa Claus has done a fantastic job. So that's the clip there. Hopefully that played through. I want to make sure that went through. So Trump said that that he did a good job, as you see there. So I'm like, and peasant journalists had sent that to me before. I mean, they had been going viral. Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab is the dude for the face. He's also very similar to Trump in that he's more the mascot of the globalist movement. But to hear Trump say that is surprising. And in 2020, I believe this was January, right before the lockdowns. So that was still the before times. The whole world was different. Things were a lot different before March of 2020 than after March of 2020. I don't think Trump would even say something like that now. But Trump, I can't explain why he said that there. It does, no question, sounds funny, no doubt. But to take that clip and then not to look at what Trump did or what he didn't do, and to take that clip and then make it sound like he's a globalist based on that clip is a hell of a reach. And I told that to Peasant. I was like, I don't know if he is or not. But I was like, that's not enough for me. Like that, what does that mean? Did you hear him speak in that same meeting at the World Economic Forum? To their faces, he dissed them with an America First speech. Now, obviously, Trump doesn't write his speeches, so you could say he was just saying it or what, but that's not what a control op would do. That doesn't make sense. Why would you have a controlled op rallying a populist movement in America when to get the globalist agenda going, you need to squash the populist movement so you can get rid of the Constitution? Once you get rid of the Constitution, globalist agenda, easy. So people are replying to that, and Jack replied. So you want to know why Jack replied to this. If you're going to run a social media account, you got to know what's going on. I'm just doing my basement. I'm not getting paid to do this or anything like that, and I know what's going on. Jack Posobiec wants to avoid this thing from going viral. Jack Posobiec has the ability to make things go viral, and there's another part, he has the ability to stop things from going viral. And he's concerned, because he's anti-globalist, and he's concerned with this type of thing going viral and causing a fire that needs to be put out. He's pro-Trump. So Jack is going to jump on this, seeing this go viral. Dissident has a lot of followers. So he's like, are you going to post this too? So notice Jack didn't say anything about Trump saying that statement, because Jack knows the statement is cringe. But it's not the whole context. Trump repeatedly, over and over again, I don't even know if I want to play all the stuff. I've talked about it. Maybe I'll do another video just on that. But he repeatedly blasts the globalists. So Jack Posobiec replies, at Davos, Trump urges the world to ignore the prophets of doom. That was in the speech. Trump snubs Davos vision in another America First speech. Trump bashes this, I can't even say that now. You don't even know what you can say. This idea about things changing on the globe. These activists, he bashed them politically in address to World Economic Forum. So Posobiec's like, wait, hold up. So what's this? Is this just fake? I mean, what does that even make sense? Trump said everybody that Trump fired, he said at one point John Bolton was doing a fantastic job. It's just what Trump said. That's my kind of take on it. I don't know the full context there. But so that's where Jack got involved. So Jack was like taking this video out of context. So we're looking at it, seeing it, and this was a mistake. So Libertarian Party of New... Well, actually, this wasn't even a mistake here. This wasn't the mistake. So it's this next tweet. So Libertarian Party New Hampshire tweets, actual photo of Trump's America First policies. He sure said some fiery things to establishment, but caved to them 9 out of 10 times. I don't know if it's 9 out of 10 times. I mean, one of the first things he did when he got into office was take America out of the Paris Climate Accord. That was not, was that the one? Because that obviously was an anti-globalist agenda. But, okay, this is a fine tweet. I don't have a problem with this tweet. They talked about Saudis, America. I've talked about my concerns there. The Saudi relationship might have been a good one strategically, but it was, they sacrificed a lot for that. But whether you agree or not, this libertarian tweet is fine because it's very specific. It's talking about his foreign policies where they say, I don't believe you were American first. Fine. No problem there. I have no problem with that tweet. I don't know if I agree with it. I have to do some research. But it's a fair tweet. I don't know why. I don't know why the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire feels the need to jump in on a Trump conversation, though. Especially with this video. So you're under the conversation of this video that doesn't mean anything, doesn't prove anything. It doesn't even make sense to call Trump controlled op. He might be, I don't know, but if he is, it's a hell of an op. Like all the Whitmer lies, the 2020 fortification, the J6. They're literally trying to put him and his supporters in jail. BLM was an op against him. So BLM was an op against an op. You're really reaching. It could have been, but you're really reaching at that point. There's no facts that prove that. So you're under. This isn't a separate conversation. You're under the video that makes no sense and proves nothing. So then after that, so they went in and did that. And I think this was the mistake, is when, did he quote tweet this? I'm sorry, let me make sure I find the mistake. So let's go into Dissident's tweet. That's the tweet from the LP. And then I think the other tweets came in under this one here. This Jack tweet. And Twitter is so hard to find these tweets now. Let me pull up my... I saved them just because I knew this would happen. Let me pull up my... let me pull this up here. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, so here's where they got into the problem. So Posobiec replied. I don't know why I can't find the reply now. Twitter's so annoying. But Posobiec replied, "So you guys just gonna lie about this video then?" Notice Posobiec didn't talk about Israel, didn't talk about Saudi Arabia. I told you Posobiec only picks things that he can go up against to, and it's like 99% certainty he's in the right. So he doesn't talk about the stuff that he's not right, and this account probably doesn't follow Jack, or they probably don't know Jack, and that probably hurt them. So Jack was talking about the video. Jack was like, the whole point that Jack got involved in the conversation was to stop the video from going viral, in my opinion. He never said that. But to stop the video from going viral that kind of showed Trump as a globalist. He didn't want Trump discredited in a viral video. So the party, the LPNH replied under that. Jack Posobiec says, "So you guys just going to lie about the video then? Because the video doesn't prove anything." So at this point, when Jack replies after that, for me, what I would say is the video. I agree. You'll go through my Twitter feed and look for the words "agree." You'll find it a lot. Because I don't want to be getting taken down the wrong rabbit hole. I would have said, "I agree that video doesn't prove anything," and left and exited that whole thread. And then if you want to criticize Trump, start a new thread separate from that video. Because now your whole foundation is on a weak foundation with a weak video that doesn't prove anything. It's actually asinine to me to think Trump is a controlled op. It just doesn't line up. So you have a foundation that's weak, and you're going against one of the heavy hitters on Twitter. And you're representing the Libertarian Party at this point. A lot of people don't even know what the NH means, probably. It's an official account with a check mark, right? Yep. So then they replied, "This is a mistake." So instead of saying, "I agree that video doesn't prove anything," and period, end of statement. "I agree, Jack, that video doesn't prove anything, stop, full stop." That's what the reply should have been. But no, instead, they said, "We judge Trump by his actions." So they don't understand what's happening. Jack is concerned about the video, not about the actions of Trump, like you're talking about. So then the LP, the party says what he said about Klaus Schwab was irrelevant. And I agree. So what they're trying to say is, I'm talking about stuff outside the video. So they just should have said, "I agree, the video doesn't prove anything," and stopped. They didn't understand what was happening. Jack didn't even want to get into it with them. He just wanted to stop the video from spreading. And then a checkmark account comes on and tries to have a conversation under a video he wants to stop. You don't know what's happening. This is a social media fail. That's a marketing, messaging fail. If you can overcome it, I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but you better understand what happened so it doesn't happen again. And then the one that really went off the rails, whether or not it was in context. God, why was that added to that? Oh, even if they would have stopped with what he said about Klaus Schwab was irrelevant, and then period. We judge Trump by his actions. What he said about Schwab was irrelevant, period. Jack wouldn't have done anything, because what they weren't legitimizing the video. But I still say this reply was wrong. It should have been, I agree, Jack, that video isn't proof of anything. Period. And no more argument. So you look back, you've played the film through, it's easy for me to say after the fact, and easy for me to say because I know Jack. I hope, let me pause for a second and get feedback from people. Do you understand? I'm not even getting into the Trump-controlled op conversation or globalist conversation yet. It doesn't, so GB, thank you for the comment. It doesn't matter who shared the video. I'm trying to explain to you all. Why is Jack replying to Dissident? He was replying to Dissident because he doesn't want the video to go viral. He's, shilling for Trump, whatever. I'm not saying that in a negative way. He's a Trump guy, and he's the most powerful populist right account on Twitter. The reason why he quote tweeted Dissident, it doesn't matter if you shared the video. You're under a thread with the video. That's why I said if you don't think the video proved anything, then don't comment under the video like it proved something. And if you're just a random citizen and you don't know how to use Twitter, fine. I'm not blaming you. This is the official libertarian account. And I'm just giving feedback. That's what you got to think about. Is that fair? I agree. Ray Studios is a Trump guy. You couldn't even call me a Trump guy. I'm just not anti-Trump. And I agree. I don't know if he's controlled or not, but Ray Studios says he isn't controlled, but I'm glad they at least have their eyes open. Absolutely. Trust no one. That's not, my take isn't to say you can't challenge or anything like that. We got to understand what's happening on Twitter. Why did Jack get, I'm not going to say heated, but why did Jack get elevated with respect to how he tweeted this thing? Yeah, okay, thank you. GB says fair. Again, I'm not attacking LP and H. I'm just, let's replay what happened, and so we don't fail again in this regard. Jack is trying to stop the video from going viral. You're talking about under the video. So Jack's like, I want to stop this video from going viral. It doesn't seem like you understand that, and you still want to debate under this video. No. Now, the thing is, if LP and H had taken the conversation outside this video thread, Jack would not have replied because he wouldn't care. So I don't know if LP and H was thinking about that or what. So that's what happened. And then after that, it got escalated. So they said whether or not it was in context. So now Posobiec quote tweeted them. I think he's got over 1 million followers. I have it up right here. I should be able to check, but I think he has over 1 million followers. He's an extremely powerful account. He has 1.8 million followers. For a political account, that's a ton. So now he's quote tweeting the Libertarian Party and H in a negative way, in a way that makes them look seedy. And that's not what LP and H was trying to do, but you misstepped. So Posobiec says, literally admitting you are taking him out of context and don't care that you lied. So that, I don't think that's a fair tweet by Jack, but it doesn't matter. There was missteps that you took that got you there. And then it escalated. So this is a good thing. This is Posobiec retweeting Michael Malice, so that's great. But then Posobiec went on to but he wanted to retweet speeches. I'm not going to play them, but there's tons of proof that it just makes it hard. To me, if you're going to say Trump is controlled op, it's on you to prove it. And the only thing that I can think of is COVID, is the pandemic response, the failed pandemic response. And that's not enough for me. It's just not. And then he came on again to say Trump is a secret globalist is probably the dumbest nonsense take I have heard on Twitter in a long while, and that's saying something. He wouldn't have said that if you just kept it on a topic like the pandemic outside of that video thread. He would have never retweeted it because he knows that's not a winning topic for the populist right. So then he goes on to retweet stuff, and he talks about the Very Fine People hoax. He said a lot of people running psyops now. Now he's talking about the LPNH running psyops. This is not the exposure you want. And then now this is the tweet I talked about, libertarians sharing the video of Trump widely under context. Now I know that, well, Dissident, I don't know if Dissident is the one that started it, but the LP account is the one that made a misstep there. And I'm going to get later, this is going to get into Dr. Karlin Borisenko. It got ugly. So they exposed themselves, and it got really, this isn't even the ugly part. So that's what got me upset. Is Trump perfect? No. And I'm going to get into later another exciting thing, the Schedule F thing this is the first I've heard of. He actually did an executive order in late 2020, and he leaked, or somebody leaked, that's one of his priorities. There's two concerns I had with Trump. I think it's just two major concerns. Number one, the pandemic response. Fauci, all that, you didn't handle it well. Peter Navarro admits in his book they didn't handle it well. Pandemic response, and then outside of that, I had a question about his daughter and son-in-law. And I have good news that in the leak about what Trump's going to do if he were to be president again, he addressed both of those issues. So even if your issue is the pandemic, now Trump, I wish he was the type of guy to say, here's where I messed up, but that's not Trump, okay? He's just not going to do it. But what he did is leak what I'm going to do differently next time. And that addresses it to me. So he's addressed my two concerns fully. Will he do them or not when he gets into office? Who knows? But at this point, what else can he do other than address the two concerns? So that's what happened there. Let me show how ugly this actually got. It got really ugly. So Trump came going, and I don't know if anybody, I really hope that someone from the Libertarian Party, and I didn't add everybody. I think I added Michael Heiss. I should have added Dave Smith, but he's not on Twitter that much. I added McCardle. Behind the scenes, they should have reached out to Jack. Obviously, they didn't. Or if they did, it didn't do anything. Because, my goodness, look at what he tweeted. I apologize, I have to go through his thread again to find it. Look what he tweeted afterwards. Complete and total annihilation of the libertarian. And I could have told you this was going to happen. And I could have told you this was going to happen. Jack Posobiec does not play. He's the one, and it's rightful credit, because I was on Twitter as it was breaking, the Ministry of Truth, this Disinformation Governance Board. Jack Posobiec was the one that blew it up. I don't know if he's the first one that saw it or what, but he was the big account that blew it up, and actually his momentum stopped it. The Washington Post gave him credit for that. So I could have told you, you mess around with Posobiec, you will find out. If you're going to mess with the populist right and Posobiec, you better be really solid. And look what Jack retweeted right here. Because I had seen this already, and I was going to address this, but it's so much to it. Jack Posobiec retweeted an at LPNH about Karlin Borisenko. And at that point, I was like, excuse me, guys. I was like, oh, my God. Woo! This is not good. Someone should have reached out to Jack and said, Jack, we messed up on the video stuff. No mas. We good. We don't. This thing with Karlin Borisenko. She's the candidate for governor in New Hampshire, the Libertarian Party official candidate, and she's wrapped up in all kinds of unnecessary Twitter beef, and I think she is brilliant. People kind of got at me and like, why? How could you call her brilliant? How somebody's political or philosophical takes are separate to me from their actions. I'm talking about when she talks about policy and philosophy, she's brilliant. She's ahead of the curve on a lot of stories. She's excellent. That's why I follow her. But she gets into unnecessary Twitter beefs, just like LPNH did. And she has other baggage, which I hate to see this because it doesn't have anything to do with her philosophies, but it is worth, this is what happened. Mike Harlow tweeted that she carried on a long relationship. I want to give her a chance to respond. I think she has. I haven't looked through it yet. But the LPNH candidate for governor had a relationship with a convicted child prawn guy. Pled guilty. So I don't know the case. I don't know what that means. That's Dr. Karlin Borisenko. And there's old tweets from 2011, 2010 talking about this. She also featured another, and this one she explained well enough to me. She didn't know, I guess is what she was saying, but another guy that was in deviant behavior. So this is like really bad baggage for the Libertarian Party. Not just the NH, Libertarian Party in general. And how did it start? It started off of the Trump video with the WEF. Now, there's no excuse. You've got to consider who your candidates are and if they can get vetted. And not that doesn't mean I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, especially someone who I respect, like Dr. Karlin. I've been saying that she doesn't pick her battles well. And I'm going to stop there for a second. Do you see how ugly that got? Yes, it is AZ Patriot. It is. It is her. And I've used her clips in my videos. She's excellent. I can see why they would choose her. She's really smart. I like when she speaks. So this isn't even, I'm getting a little bit too far off. I'm not getting into her yet. What I'm saying is that you can't make an argument that the LPNH misstepped here, that they didn't misstep. Now Jack Posobiec is retweeting the dirty laundry within the candidate for the NH party. And then let me take a step back. Why is LPNH talking about Donald Trump at all? Somebody tell me that. Explain that to me. Why are they even worried about Donald Trump right now? Somebody explain that to me in the chat. Why are they talking about? Why are they even amped up about him? Is there nothing else going on in the world that's more important than Donald Trump? I'm not trying to change the topic to avoid the conversation. I'll have the I've had the conversation, so we can get into that about Trump and what he's done, what he did well, what he didn't do well. I am not trying to avoid that conversation. I've had it on the channel. But I'm just saying from a strategy standpoint. This is the midterms. You've got all kinds of stuff with Biden in charge, in power right now. Trump is not in power right now. Why is the Libertarian New Hampshire account trying to go at Trump? What's the strategy with that? Who are they trying to win over with that? What's the point of it? Somebody tell me, what's the point of that? So Ryan Smart says they're trying to attack from the left, but they don't realize the left is diminishing fast. No, they're not trying to. That's not an attack from the left. Yeah, what? I don't even understand. I don't even understand the strategy for them to attack Trump. Period. Here's the problem. Thanks, GB. Yeah. So GB says, yeah, they stepped in it. The analysis is sound. They just tried to pile on with that video being shared all over and got clowned by a Twitter expert in Poso. Here's what I would like to tell. LPNH doesn't understand the populist right. What's happening in our country right now, that's why I have that intro where it's like everybody's MAGA. I just played the intro to start the show. You're MAGA. This, even though you don't even consider yourself populist right or whatever. Anyone who does not bend the knee to the corporate narrative of Republicans and Democrats is in an alt category. You're in the Nick Fuentes category. Whether you agree with him or not, you watching this video, you're in the alt category, whatever that alt world is. Alt left, populist left, Jimmy Dore, Bannon, Posobiec, libertarians, Clifton Duncan. I played a great speech by him at a Mises Caucus event in Auburn. Anyone, classic liberals, not neoliberals, classic liberals. Tim Pool, I think Tim Pool is a classic liberal. He's in this. Everyone, Salty Cracker, everyone is lumped into the same alt room. Trump is in the alt room. Why are you going after somebody else in that same alt room? Maybe there could be a very legitimate reason. I don't know. Because that's the New Hampshire account, keep in mind. It's not even the national account. Why would the New Hampshire account say, we're in this alt category room? I wonder if they feel like they don't want to be in the alt category room. Because a lot of people hate Trump. And you're considered alt. So Tim Pool has kind of been like, I don't hate Trump. I don't like everything he's done, but I don't hate him. Kind of similar to me. So I'm in the alt room with Trump and Trump supporters. I'm like, I'm good. I like to exchange ideas, and we're cool. Like, you can't do that in the corporate side. You don't exchange ideas. You do what you're told. This is the new thing. BLM, do it. Ukraine, do it. Roe v. Wade, go do it. Abolish 2A, go do it. Georgia laws are wrong, go do it. J6 is this, go do it. There's no discussion there. So, but in this alt room, like for a lot of Trump supporters in this chat, like Ray Studios, I don't think he agrees with the universal basic income. I do. And we can talk about that and still be like, we agree on a lot. And okay, we disagree on that one thing. So what? We're still in the room. We're still good. We still dap. And the Libertarian Party is in that same room. Dave Smith, you're in the same room. You're an alt guy. The only way to get out the room is to bend the knee to corporate interests. Why is the Libertarian Party attacking another group in that alt room? You can do it. You can challenge people. I do it all the time. Like, that's why I challenge the populist right on understanding culture. They don't get culture. That's not me annihilating them. That's just me saying, where do you all fit in culture-wise? I don't think you understand culture. We're in the same room and just talking. Just like me and Nico House talked about it, and I don't think he had any beef about it. I wasn't trying to beef with him. I was just giving my perspective. I learned so much from him. Maybe there's something I can give back. It's a reciprocal thing. So if you are going to have beef with another group, whether it's a Tim Pool classic liberal or a Jimmy Dore left or a Bannon or a Trump populist right, or a Dave Smith libertarian, if I'm going to have beef with Dave Smith, like not beef, but disagree strongly, it's going to have to be a doozy of a topic. It's going to have to be that hill for me to die, figuratively unlive on. So if the Libertarian New Hampshire account is going to have beef with Poso, man, they better be on some really next level stuff. So that's bigger than this Twitter stuff. In general, I listen to Eric July a lot. And Eric July doesn't rock with Trump at all. At all. He doesn't rock with any politician at all. He's a true anarcho-capitalist. But there's overlap in this room where a lot of people that listen to Eric July they're not anti-Trump. They're not necessarily pro-Trump, but they're not anti-Trump. And there's some that are pro-Trump. And when Eric July, he picks his spots where he criticizes Trump, he makes it very specific. He'll say something, well, that's when he used to do the politics shows. Now he's off to bigger and better things. Congratulations. Can't wait for my books. He got his new books in. And I got in the first hour the site was up. So I'm hoping I get my book early. But comic book. He's a comic book guy. But he would bring it up and say, your beloved Trump. Or sometimes he wouldn't even say his name. Some of these beloved figures during 2020 signed off on these bills that spent all this money that played a role in this inflation. So what he's doing is he challenges Trump, but he's respectful to the populist right because he doesn't need beef with the populist right. Why? I'm still going to challenge you. I'm not going to lie, but I'm not going to say he's some controlled op, which is something you can't even prove, which the Libertarian Party New Hampshire said later on. That I quote tweeted that one, like, what the hell is going on? So I think understand in that group, don't, unless there's something big, don't pop it off in that room. What's up? The Angry Canuck says, if you want to watch the Chinese fire towards Taiwan with live fire, I uploaded it. Wow. Also uploaded North Korea's declaration of, when was that from? Nuclear war with U.S. if they provoke war. And Ray Studio said this. So but here's the thing, Ray. You had a legit reason to think that, even though I disagree. Here's the reason why I disagree is because Luke is that dude. Luke Rukowski is that dude. And I love that Timcast got a billboard with Luke Rukowski in New York, man. That's wonderful stuff from Timcast. There's a video. Who was it that he confronted, Ray? There's a video of Luke Rukowski, who is, I think, a libertarian also. He was able to walk up to one of these leaders, these family leaders, like these world leaders, and put a mic in his face. This was like, I don't know, was it 2016 or before? Oh, I'm not even going to say the name, Ray. Yeah, I don't even say that name anymore. But in the chat, look in the chat, Ray tweeted the name. And Ray's like, I don't know if Luke is controlled op, because this guy who's one of the elite in the world, above Elon Musk and way above, Luke Rudowski was able to run up to him and put a recorder in his face? How is that possible? No bodyguards? So Ray's like, I think he might be controlled op. I don't agree, but he at least has a point there. What's the point with Trump? How is Trump controlled op? He's riled up the populist right in America that's anti-globalist. Why would you have a controlled op who's riling people up? Trump is only a mascot. Trump does not control MAGA. People don't understand. Trump does not control MAGA. I remember, all these great things like Officer Tatum railing on Donald Trump. Bryson Gray, to this day, he always goes on his live. He's like, y'all think this is about Trump? Bryson Gray says that. Nick Fuentes criticized Trump, said Trump of 2020 wasn't the Trump of 2016. He still supports Trump. This is not Trump gets booed. This is not a cult. Nobody afraid to question Trump. Trust me. If you think that, you haven't talked to people who support Trump. You probably saw some videos of people they tried to denigrate online to make them look like fools. So I here's where I'm going to end with that part of it. I want the Libertarian Party to embrace some of the populist right. There's overlap there. Marjorie Taylor Greene has a bill right now. It's not going to go anywhere, but a bill to abolish the ATF. That is a libertarian position. She talked about that on with Timcast. There's overlap. She doesn't even know that it's a libertarian position because they asked her about it. That was when Luke was on with her. I think it was the second time or the first time, I forget. And Luke was asking her. It's very bad when Luke isn't on there with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Carrie Lake, because Tim Pool doesn't ask them tough questions. And I agree. I want the questions asked. I was listening to Anomaly. Anomaly has great lives. Go check him out. And he's always challenging Trump. And I agree with him completely. Anomaly's like, I just want somebody to ask Trump the question. Is that too much to ask? I agree. He's talking about the pandemic. Anything about the pandemic. Why did you partner with Big Pharma, pretty much create literal fascism between the government and Big Pharma? What did you do wrong? How will you not have that happen again? What happened? I think it's obvious it was a personnel thing. And that leads me into this take. I'm excited about this one right here, y'all. I'm really excited about this. So I'm going to end on a happy note with this. Woo! This article, you better go run and find this article if you have not read this article. Let me fast forward through my slides, which I had. I'm glad I had I knew just in case I needed to clip some stuff. Okay, here, this article by Jonathan Swan. Ooh, let's have some fun. I'm ready to have some fun. This is political fun. I'm old now. This is my kind of fun. I got the Jack Murphy beard going. Like, can I have some fun too? I'm just joking. I have no beef with Jack. I know people are off on him. I don't know what he's doing now. I don't follow him or anything like that, but I don't have beef with him. I got the Jack Murphy beard. A radical plan for Trump's second term. And I might be a fool. I fully admit I might be a fool. I don't think it's controlled op. But he might be just dropping seeds to get the base happy. Listen to this. So, former President Trump's allies here. This is what's happening, y'all. They leaked somebody leaked something. They are preparing to radically reshape the federal government. How are they planning to do that? I think this is Trump learning. And you could tell that Jonathan Swan was like really serious and scared about this happening. The problem is there are a lot of people in DC that this is a term I got from Steve Bannon, the administrative state, the deep state. These are unelected officials that just stay in DC. They're DC lifers. If you know anything about DC, you know DC is it's the mecca, maybe even more, is more than New York or LA, of corporate Democrats and politicians. It's their mecca. That's why Bannon couldn't get a fair trial. That's why the Sussman trial couldn't get a fair jury. The juries, everybody on the jury is like wildly biased against Trump. You can't find a Trump supporter in DC. It's wildly you can't find a non-corporate person in DC. It's like a corporate haven. So Trump goes in there, and it would be like, let me use a Tesla analogy. Tesla is next level with their manufacturing, their plants and everything. The head of that vehicle is Elon Musk. GM and the legacy autos are not. They're old school. They can't scale. Not that they make bad electric cars even. They're not as good as Teslas, but they can't scale them. They're not ready. Their base is gas. If you took Elon Musk from CEO or whatever his title is at Twitter, and you took him and replaced, what's her name, Mary Berry for GM. So you just took Elon Musk and replaced him at CEO with GM. They couldn't make Teslas. So this is relevant to a lot of the criticism of Trump. So Trump came into office, and he's just the head guy. There's like 2 million employees underneath him. I think it's 2 million. or in this article they're going to talk about 50,000 kind of in the executive branch. How many of them do you think were America First? So Trump takes over GM. He can't just make Teslas just because he's the Tesla guy. If he just takes over GM, how long do you think it would take Elon Musk to turn GM into Tesla? And then, so that's what Trump did. He went into the deep state. I know he sold it like I'm going to strain the swamp and all that. It was easier said than done. He was the head of the snake. And the same thing would happen if Comic Dave Smith became president. Do you think Comic Dave Smith could become president and in 4 years turn the country, decentralize the federal government? Come on, y'all. Don't be stupid. That was never a possibility. And then on top of that, you had 2 impeachments. They're literally spying on the dude before he's even president. They're attacking him on all angles. The 50,000 employees underneath him, how many of them MAGA? You could probably count them on one hand. So you've got all these dirty administrative guys, just like Fauci. He's a civil servant, the head of NIH. Against him, all of them. So I'm not absolving Trump from his mistakes. But what I'm saying is, just taking not Fauci, but just taking Trump and placing him in DC doesn't solve anything. He did what he could. I don't know what you want him to do. A lot of what happens in DC happens with staffers, people underneath the president, while he's battling for his, public image. Then, he basically only has a couple years, and you got to run for office again. And then his last year, he had to run for office, and the pandemic happened at the same time. I'm not making excuses. We got to be real, though, y'all. I've criticized Trump. Please don't get me wrong. I could do at least a half an hour of just video of me criticizing Trump. But we have to provide context. I would highly suggest Peter Navarro's book. Which one is it? I forgot the title of it. He breaks it all down there. Sorry, I want to find the book here. Peter Navarro, Taking Back Trump. Was it Taking? Which one was it? Sorry, I want to see it. So he has Taking Back Trump's America. And then he has In Trump Time. So I think it was, yes, it was In Trump Time is the book, I believe. Yep, it's In Trump Time. So that's the context for all of this. There's this Schedule F that Trump, it's this executive order that Trump actually signed late in 2020. He didn't get a chance to do anything with it. When Biden came into office, he eliminated it. What it would do is it would create a Schedule F class of federal employees who are the policy makers, these administrative state people, including Fauci, that position. It would make it easier for the executive branch to fire them. Yes. So they're protected to some extent from just being let go. So this includes scientists, includes all kinds of staffers at all different levels, from secretary. So Pete Buttigieg is in office right now. He's the transportation secretary. Say Trump comes in office in 2024. A lot of the staffers under Trump, or whoever he appoints to the transportation secretary, are going to be people who are anti-Trump and pro-Buttigieg. What Trump is saying is, here's what I learned. I want to fire them. Just like The Apprentice. So, Libertarian Party, isn't that what you want? Now, you want no government. I got you. How does that happen with policy? even laws, I've been researching this, listening to different people. They don't start from Trump down or the president down. They start from the ground up, most of them. In order to break down and decentralize the federal government, you have to clean out these lifelong DC corporate trash shill employees. That they're against they're against Biden. They're just for themselves and the corporate agenda. And hey, I can do this. I'm the brown noser. I'm the best brown noser. And then they justify it by saying I'm a patriot. I have to go against Trump because I'm a patriot. How do you say comic Dave Smith got into office as president? Wouldn't you want him to have the ability to fire all these people who don't even know what libertarianism is working under him? So we should support it for Trump or any president, really. You can't just have it for a president you like. If they're under the executive branch, so I don't see what the problem is. So they're very scared about this. They're very, very scared about this. Medical associations are condemning the action. Democrats don't like it. They don't want to talk about it too much. Because the more you talk about this, the more people are like, wait a second, what's happening? Why are all these people just lifelong DCers? Where do these lifelong DCers come from? They all come from the universities that are brainwashed. Who's Trump going to hire? So what he's going to do is fire. He can't fire all 50,000 people working under him. It's just not possible. They don't have ideology. They're just shills. So what Trump would have to do is say, I need you to shill for me, but I need to give you there's always a quid pro quo in DC. I'll let you keep your job as my quid pro quo, and as long as you shill for me, or whatever extra bonus it is. All Trump has to do is hire the right middlemen and weed out the bad apples. And then he can be more of the figure and other people doing the work. Where would he get these people? Some of them would come from TPUSA. That's why Charlie Kirk is being attacked. So libertarians, I need you to make your own kind of movement, not just because there's already the Mises Caucus and a movement, but a movement with the youth. Maybe there is. I'm not familiar with it. That's what TPUSA is. A movement to counter the universities. That's why they go to the universities. If you go to a university and there's 50,000 students and there's 1,000 of them that are open to the populist right, Charlie Kirk wants to say, you have a path. We're supporting DeSantis. We're supporting Trump, who will get power, and you will be chosen to be a staffer, to be in these roles. That's what's happening. Does that not answer the problem? I went on a rant against Trump, railing against him about being happy that Dr. Fauci called him Tony, and he's still doing funny stuff like still propping up the V for Vendettas, but in his speech, he's just avoiding saying the word so he doesn't get booed. So I've been railing away and attacking on him, but this solves it. So this isn't drain the swamp anymore. This is now, here's the plan. It still is drain the swamp, but drain the swamp was just a slogan. He didn't even make this a slogan yet. This leaked out. Tell me you're not excited about this. House Democrats are concerned? Probably I'm excited if they're concerned. This was in 2020 of October. They demanded an immediate stop to Schedule F executive order because all the cronies that do the dirty work for them were going to get fired or kind of put in a chess position where they would have to be aligned with Trump. Protections for these civil servants would allow them to argue for evidence-based decision-making. That was the idea. Did that work out in the pandemic? No, that's what Trump thought it was going to be too, but it didn't work out. Trump didn't, in my opinion, he didn't realize that they were undercutting him. Their argument is, we can't have the boss fire us because we're beholden to the people. You're beholden to the people through the president. So the public health system is a mix of all different types of people. And Fauci, the NIAID, the Homeland Security Secretary, and other civil servants, these people would all potentially get fired. So they're scared. They say, these servants need to have the trust of the American people. They do. The American people spoke. They would have voted for DeSantis or Trump or Dave Smith or Jimmy Dore or whoever they voted for. So they vote. The trust through the people is through that president, because they don't know all these different positions. They said if you deny the CDC the ability to have briefings for the public, you take away control over authoring their guidance and attack them and discredit them. Do you know who the CDC reports to? Why are they talking about this? Why are they even talking about it like this? All it is to say the executive branch doesn't have to fire you. If they like the job you're doing, you're not going to get fired. So it's under the Health and Human Services, under the executive branch. That is, they report to the president. What this quote is here, they're talking against what Trump wants to do. What this quote means is they don't want to report to their boss. It would be like me having a boss, but then me saying, I don't want my boss to be able to fire me. I want to connect with the people. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you don't want to have power unbeholden to your boss. You just want to connect to the people out of the goodness of your heart. I'm sure. So this reporting for this. So how did he get this information? There was a lot of interviews they did for more than 3 months with more than 24 people close to the former president and others who have firsthand knowledge of the work underway to prepare for a second term. So they got people who are leaking this. It's not an accident. Trump's not stupid. This is good. Trump's gotten better. He never really did well with leaks. This is a good leak. So they spoke under the condition of anonymity. No, they're leaking it to you on purpose, Jonathan Swan, to avoid Trump's ire. All this whole leak was planned. Trump's ready for it. He wanted to rally the base. At least when I say base, the people who are really politically active, because your common person has no idea what's happening. Go tell somebody. What can you do? Go tell somebody. If they like, you know what, I like Trump, but I didn't like how he did with the pandemic, rightfully so. I don't know if this will answer those questions for you, but Trump looks like they leaked that he's going to be trying to do some crazy stuff. Instead of going after Trump, Libertarian Party, I want to hear you talk about some crazy stuff you're going to do. I need you attacking the corporate idea. I need you right now to cozy up to the populist right. Doesn't mean you have to be them, but they're not your enemy. Cozy up to the populist left too. It's harder with the populist left because the populist right, there's more overlap. Populist right wants limited government. Most libertarians want no central government. That's a closer position than the populist left, that they also kind of believe government is God. They want more government spending. They just don't want it on war. They want more government spending on their student loans and homelessness and whatever they want to spend it on. So that's a further distance, the populist left and libertarians, than the populist right and libertarians. Way further distance. Isn't this exciting? I'm pumped up. So they intend to stack thousands of mid-level staff jobs. Well-funded groups are already developing lists of candidates selected often for their animus against the system. Isn't that what we want? How is this deep state? How is this controlled op? This is not globalist agenda, guys. Like, you wouldn't even talk about this if you're a controlled globalist agenda person. In line with his idea of draining the swamp. So he has databases of vetted people being committed to Trump and his agenda. That's not a bad thing. That's saying you work for me. If Elon Musk at Tesla is only going to hire people who are committed to the agenda of Tesla, nothing wrong with that. That's how the Mises Caucus took over the Libertarian Party. They surrounded themselves with Mises Caucus people who all had the same ideology and vision for the Libertarian Party. That's how it's done. And you're attacking him? He's talking about the same tactics. You both have the most powerful movements. The number one political movement is MAGA. The number two political movement is the Libertarian Party. No need to fight. You might eventually have to have your disagreements, but there's no need for the back and forth there. So look at this. So that we know that when Trump does this, so the Congress can try to fight the executive branch on everything. So not only with the pandemic response is that on the executive branch, the legislative branch could have jumped in and took Trump to court on any response. They didn't. But look where they jumped. They will. We know when Trump does this Schedule F, if he got into office, they would be doing legal challenges. Trump's already ready to take it to the Supreme Court, and that's why you see these plots to unlive Supreme Court, at least one, to unlive a Supreme Court justice. I believe it was more than one even. Because the Supreme Court, when they hear this, they're going to be like, of course the executive branch has the ability to fire who's under them. What the hell did you think? Why do you think they wouldn't have? I don't think you could even pass a law in Congress to... The executive branch is the executive branch. You can't pass a law saying, much less suing them and getting to the Supreme Court. I don't know what the suit would be. You couldn't even pass a law, in my opinion, blocking the executive branch from doing an executive order. I think you can stop emergency orders, but you can't stop an executive order. All an executive order is all the people that I control, you have to do this. An executive order doesn't do anything beyond that. So this would get approved by the Supreme Court, no brainer. That's why they're so scared. New presidents typically get to replace more than 4,000 so-called political appointees, but to oversee the running of the administration. But below this rotating layer of political appointees sits a mass of government workers who enjoy strong employment protections and typically continue their service from one administration to the next, regardless of the president's party affiliation. That's what Trump needs to get in. That's the deep state in the way, the administrative state. So the estimate with the Schedule F is that Trump could fire 50,000. That would be a daunting task. But he could fire tens of thousands. I think what Trump would do is go in and I'll fire who I need to fire. That's how I'll do it. I don't need the CDC against me. CDC, you are like my doctor. You give me recommendations. You give me information. At the end of the day, if I want to smoke, I'm not a smoker, but if I want to smoke, I can smoke. If I want to drink, I can drink. I don't care what my health condition is. Thank you for the information, though. But I make the decision. That's what Trump is trying to say here, or change here and say, there shouldn't be a war with me and the CDC. You report to me. There shouldn't be Dr. Birx going behind my back on stuff. Even though that's ultimately Trump's fault, Trump should be able to just go, boom, fired right away. No protections. That's what they're scared about. Now, I understand the concern. You get a new president, you could, literally the president could fire 50,000 people and then hire new. Where do you get them from? That would create turmoil. Okay, that's the threat. If the president creates turmoil, then obviously that wouldn't go over well with people. So you get rid of the bad apples. And he's siding himself with these groups like the CRA and the AFPI. These aren't really great groups. There aren't many America First people, period, in the country that are qualified to even go to D.C. You couldn't fill those 50,000 spots with 50,000 America First people qualified to do them. You couldn't even do it. So you've got to build up the base. That's what TP USA is about, and some of these other organizations. Trump wanted to install, this is a side note, Kash Patel as the deputy director of the CIA or the FBI. Guess who didn't want it? Attorney Bill, anti-friend of show, Attorney General Bill Barr wrote in his own memoir, I haven't read this, I just got it from the article, that he told then Chief of Staff Mark Meadows that Patel becoming Deputy FBI Director would happen over my unlived body. Perfect example of someone Trump appointed at a very high position working against him. Now the AG's supposed to be independent, but that's not how it works with Eric Holder and Obama. Could you imagine Eric Holder telling Obama? So Obama's saying, I want this dude to be deputy director of the CIA. And Eric Holder saying him over my unlived body. He might have an unlived body if you said that to Obama. But when it happens to Trump, it's like no big deal. Need to clean house, get this trash out of here. He is going to wreck shop politically. Not real, like figuratively firing people in the CIA, FBI, cleaning house. That's what we want. Here's the ticker. Here's the ticker. This is the big one. I didn't know this was going to happen. When I read this in the article, my eyes got big. I'm not even. I was going to do a video on Kushner and the $2 billion that he's managing from the Saudis. I was going to do a video on it. I ain't even going to do the video anymore. Daughter, well, this is all alleged. It didn't come out of Trump's mouth, but from the sources, and you know this is true. Trump would be very upset if someone would leak this and it wasn't true. Daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner are no longer involved in Trump's political operation. By fee. So the two major concerns that I had with Trump addressed. If the votes today and Comic Dave Smith runs, I'm still voting Comic Dave Smith, but I am now back. I know I've been a hypocrite or whatever. When Trump was talking about Fauci, I was like, I'm out, and then he endorsed Oz and I'm out. I'm like, but I'm back. I'm open again. He's addressed my concerns. What do you want me to do? I'm still for asking him questions. He can't be in an interview with Candace Owens and not get tougher questions. Tim Pool, if you get Donald Trump, you've got to have Luke Radowski there. You've got to be asking tougher. It doesn't need to be contentious. You don't need to repeat yourself. Charlie Kirk has Republican candidates on. He just had Rick Scott on. And he asked him some tough questions about Ukraine. And Rick Scott looked lost and awful, and Charlie Kirk wasn't mean to him. He was respectful. You can ask tough questions and be respectful. Bye-bye, Ivanka. Bye-bye, Kushner. Now, of course, they're probably still going to be involved in some way, but not like they were before. They were toxic. They were terrible from everything I read. Very happy to hear this. And then they said Trump is still in talks with Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, but their relationship is not what it once was. Trump endorsed McCarthy. This is great to hear. Another tweet from Michael Tracy, he said that the populist right wants McCarthy and McConnell. That's how little he understands about the populist right. I'm going to have to show the tweet just to make sure people understand I'm not lying. He literally tweeted that. Let me find that real quick. He literally tweeted that. Okay, so this is, I'm going to share my screen for Michael Tracy. So cringe. And this is why I like to start kind of stay in my lane, because I'm fearful, like, if I go outside my lane, I'm going to do something as cringeworthy as this. Michael Tracy says, it sure seems like everyone on the populist right is currently super passionate about making sure Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell run the next Congress. Where'd you get that from? Now, I understand it might be confusing because you hear Trump endorse McCarthy. You never hear Trump endorse McConnell, so I don't know where he got that from. Well, I do know where he got it from. He got it from this AFPI and these fake populist right. He doesn't know the real populist right. And he compares them to AOC. Now, push will come to shove. We'll see what happens if they take over in the midterms. If they don't do what they need to do, then I'll come back and say, yep, they were just like the AOC, at least in that regards. But I just wanted to show you that that's how off Tracy is on it. So you look at it, they're gone. Kevin McCarthy, he might be on the outs. The former president is no longer in close contact with a variety of former officials and GOP operatives who once had his ear. Hope Hicks, Steve Mnuchin, all them. No more. So that's that article there. Exciting stuff. So that's what I got for you. Hopefully, I was pumped for that. Gonna be good going into the work week. I'm gonna be working tomorrow. Gonna hit it hard. On the channel, we'll see what videos I have coming. You never know what story is gonna break. But in the chat, talking about this thing here, the Angry Canuck says they don't ask tough questions on Ukraine. I would like to hear tougher questions. I would like to hear tougher questions from Carrie Lake when you get them on a platform, you've got to ask them some tougher questions. There was a little bit of give and take when Marjorie Taylor Greene was on Timcast, but I would like to see more. Dan Crenshaw is fake, phony. Yes. And you can tell by how he votes. They're calling him the eye patch in the chat. Eye patch McCain was a very funny take. Oh yeah, Ray says, am I still going to come on the show and talk about all the conspiracy stuff? Yeah, we got to meet and catch up, Ray. Ray's very good with the families and all that stuff. I don't want to get out of school. I'm going to have Peasant Journalist on if he's able to get on and talk about this stuff. So I got to coordinate it. Yeah. Metalopoly says, Crenshaw is an obvious plant. Tulsi, on the other hand, isn't so obvious. I like Tulsi. I judge her by her actions, and I don't think she would be president, but I like her. She's an independent thinker. I don't even know what to label her. I honestly don't. Maybe a classic liberal. Somebody said, Ryan Smar says, Osiris, what do you think about Trump saying drug dealers should get the death penalty? I do not agree. But here's what Trump is, the punishment has to fit the crime. So if you're talking about the higher level guys, I don't know. Maybe I'm not an expert enough on what the penalties are now. I don't know if that would solve anything. But the bigger point of that is Trump is saying what he knows people want to hear. People are tired of this stuff. They don't want to hear soft on crime type of things. I think drugs should be legal. I think they should be all legal as long as there's no harm. And that will take care of the problem. So I do not agree with Trump on that, but I can have my fantasies about drugs being legal, but is that a reality? No, that's not going to happen. So I'm good with Trump's statement, even though I don't agree. I'm fine with his statement on that. He knows what people want to hear. He's just giving people what they want to hear. And Democrats, the establishment, they've pushed people to a place where there could be some overcorrections. AZ Patriot said, I like Tulsi too. Yeah, I like Tulsi. I got no problem. Tulsi is not a... Here's where I'm looking at it, AZ. I'm looking at it as Trump, here's the thing. Do you hate me or not? That's a question I ask now. Trump doesn't hate me. So and I talk about Nick Fuentes a lot, but he's a really good example because he will say things that are very crazy. Like he will say, he was talking about the Schedule F stuff on one of his shows, and he was like, I don't care, like I want Trump to fire everybody, but I want him to replace them with all white men. And obviously that's an identitarian type of thing. But the reason I bring that up is what I look at isn't that statement. It's really, what do you bring to the table? Am I learning from you? Are you entertaining, or whatever the thing is? And he is. And does Nick Fuentes hate me? No, he does not. Does not at all. So I have no beef with him. Even though I don't agree with him, he's an authoritarian, he's an identitarian. And same with Tulsi. Tulsi does not hate me. Joe Biden, this is just my opinion, Joe Biden hates me. Because I will not subscribe to his ideology, and I won't hate Trump just because he tells me to, or anybody else. Do you hate me or not? That's why I've been canceling subscriptions and subscribing to like great books, and I've been listening to. That's why I bought Eric July's comic book. Not why, but that's why I watched his channel. I watched the comic book. I got the comic book to get the comic book. My kids and I really wanted to see the story. But that's why I got into him in the first place. In libertarians, they don't hate me. And that's the problem I have with the LPNH tweet too. Like there's who are you trying to reach with that? The common Trump supporter would look at that tweet and say, so what are you saying? I'm an idiot for believing Trump? If he's controlled op, or if he's a globalist, I'm some type of idiot for believing him? So you really got to be careful. And a challenge with libertarianism is liberty can be scary because you've got to do your own research. And if you scare common people and make them think like, I've done my research and I like Trump, and you tell me he's a fake globalist, but all this, they're trying to indict him on trumped up, no pun intended, trumped up charges. I don't understand. You libertarians are too confusing to me. That's the most generous response you're going to get from people. Who are you going after? The NPCs who don't have ideology. They don't have a problem, putting muzzles on a 2-year-old, so they're not going to listen to you about Trump being a globalist. Maybe some populist left would look at the tweet and say, yeah, I think so. But you're not winning people over with that. Let me play this clip here from CNN. Played this clip about common kind of Trump people talking about Liz Cheney, and I guess they thought it made Trump supporters look bad. I don't know. It made them look base to me. But I'm going to bring this up. Think about if the Libertarian National, New Hampshire account was talking to these people in person and was saying Trump is a controlled op or a globalist.
Cheney for a 4th term. Are you planning to vote for Liz Cheney?
Can I cuss? Hell no.
Are you planning to support Liz Cheney?
Absolutely not.
What are your thoughts about Liz Cheney?
That's a new drop. I just got a new drop. She said, this is on CNN, y'all. She asked the common person in Wyoming. I actually just was through Wyoming recently. Nothing but farmland. But and she asked her, like, are you going to vote for Liz Cheney?
Cheney for a 4th term. Are you planning to vote for Liz Cheney?
Can I cuss? Hell no.
Are you planning to support Liz Cheney?
Absolutely not.
What are your thoughts about Liz Cheney running for a 4th term?
Personally, I think she's had 3 too many.
Keep in mind, in 2020, Donald Trump won about 70% of the vote in Wyoming. So Liz Cheney's work on the January 6th investigation isn't playing so well with many Wyoming voters.
She's done us dirty.
How so?
Look at how she's done Trump. I'm a Trump fan. I'm sorry.
So she lost your vote because of her role on the January 6th committee and what she's doing about Trump?
Yes. She's supposed to be supporting him. She's a Republican, for crying out loud.
I find her work on the January 6th committee just repulsive.
How do you feel about her work on the January 6th committee and her role?
It's all a hoax. It's all propaganda. Has nothing to do with anything. It's a witch hunt.
Well, she says she's defending what's important to people here in Wyoming, upholding the rule of law, defending the Constitution.
If that was the rule of law, why doesn't he have a defense team in that courtroom? That ain't the rule of law. That's a kangaroo court. That's not the Wyoming way.
She has been an embarrassment. It's a witch hunt.
Are you proud of her for taking on Donald Trump?
No.
Here in Cheyenne, more than 1,600 miles from Washington, D.C., almost everyone we spoke with told us they believe Liz Cheney is too focused on Donald Trump and the January 6th committee and not paying enough attention to what they believe matters to the people here in Wyoming.
There's good people trying to survive, trying to put food on the table. Some of them probably voted for Obama. And they're like, we don't like how things are going. And Liz Cheney's she's over here talking about J6 still? What about us? So you see why? Those people don't hate me. Those people don't hate. If they don't hate you, they're not a problem. Liz Cheney hates me. And I'll just say that because she doesn't know me, obviously. But that's what her actions show. Malcolm Nance hates me. That's what their actions show. So I'm fine with these voters here. I'm right in line with y'all. Based. I can't believe CNN played that. I don't know if it's the new leadership or I don't know who did it. That was a good sign though. Because CNN has the new CEO, I forgot his name. The guy from the Stephen Colbert show, I believe. Producer. I think it's kind of weird, but they got the new guy running CNN. And I'm like, he wants to be more balanced. I'm like, you can only be more balanced if you have more MAGA. You got enough corporate. You can bring in corporate Republicans. That's not balanced, though. That wasn't I don't know if they thought that made MAGA look bad or not. I don't know. But it definitely didn't with me. Let me show you another thing. Kim Iverson. Kim Iverson doesn't hate me. I got no beef with Kim Iverson. I think she's a Tulsi person. She's very big into Tulsi. Recently, Kim Iverson she's a populist left figure. That's what I label her. I don't know what she labels herself. She's for student loans, payoffs, and all that. But she's part of the based populist left. She has one of the most amazing, or had, because I don't think she did the show anymore because she was doing something else. And I'll tell you about that if you don't know Kim Iverson. So she's populist left. She's not a pro-Trump. She's not a libertarian. But she's based in the truth. She does not hate me. We can team up. I don't need to go at her. Even I don't agree with student loans. I'm not just going to pick that and just keep going at her about student loans. I've talked about it in my own threads, but I'm not going at her and trying to have a heated debate over it. But she is based in truth. She's one of the best on YouTube on the pandemic. Well sourced. I can't lie. I watch her show and I'm like, damn, I want to be that good. That's what she is. She got an opportunity after Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty left The Hill is Rising. She's the one that she's the top one that I would choose. So she went to corporate America. She went to The Hill. And what she told her fans is, I'm going to go do this corporate thing with the Hill, but I will never, this is what she said, I will never sacrifice my integrity. And her fans were like, word, we support you. She went to the Hill. She's been doing stuff on the Hill. Some kind of crazy stuff happened. The fans, some of her fans thought that she had turned on them, or the integrity part of it. No, that's not what happened. There's things that happened, but she never had someone write her a script. She wrote her own radars, all that. But then the Hill got this interview with Dr. Fauci. One of the last people in the world that Dr. Fauci would want to speak to is this woman right here. She does not play game, not in a mean way. She is well sourced, well prepared. She is absolutely amazing and based in truth and reasonable talk. So she would ask tough questions and not be unhinged or anything like that. She would ask questions that would put Fauci in a bind. So the Hill had this interview with Fauci, and I'm going to let her tell the story what happened.
So as some of you may have heard, I am no longer with Hills Rising, and I know many of you want to know what happened and why there was a sudden departure, so I'm here to explain. Now, a year ago, when I joined Rising, I promised the viewers that though I was working on a corporately owned media show, I wasn't being censored or held back in any way, and I wouldn't be there if I was. So prior to joining Rising, I was doing my own show independently. Independently funded, and one of the benefits of being independent is that there are no corporate overlords or establishment types meddling with the content. And of course, we have to dance around YouTube's community guidelines, but beyond that, the actual editorial calls are not being made by some establishment hack. Now, obviously, viewers were very concerned when I joined Rising that this would change, that instead of being my normal self of questioning the establishment, calling them out, thinking outside the orthodoxy, and criticizing our leaders, but I would instead morph into some shill or stay quiet when I would normally speak out. So I made numerous assurances that this was not happening at Rising, that I was free to say what I wanted, and I was free to talk about what I wanted, and that was true. My radars over the past year were all me. I wrote every single one. I didn't have to consult with anyone about what the topic would be or what I would say about that topic. No one edited the pieces. They were 100% mine. No one ever told me what to say or what not to say at Rising. And I know that I made some of my colleagues uncomfortable with some of the things that I would say, and when I did, never once did a manager or producer pull me aside to tell me to tone it down. I was completely free to say whatever I wanted at Rising, and I did. I said whatever I wanted, most notably openly criticizing the pandemic response, vaccine mandates, and Fauci. I still remember the first time back in August of 2021, when I stated that the vaccines don't stop the spread, and I was met with fierce resistance to that idea. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. We know now that the vaccine doesn't stop the spread, so I could understand maybe doing a vaccine mandate if there was.
It certainly stops the spread. And
it doesn't stop the spread. We know it doesn't. The science is clear that it's not stopping any spread.
My open criticisms of the narrative, decisions around the pandemic, and Fauci brought in millions of views for Rising. Out of all the hosts, COVID and the pandemic response was my topic. All of the viewers knew this. So when I found out Sunday night that Fauci was going to be on the show, I was excited. This was a moment I had waited for and viewers had waited for. I had questions that I wanted to ask him, like, does he still support mandates for these non-sterilizing vaccines? With mRNAs not succeeding in ending the pandemic, why is he still pushing for them? And many more. I had a lot of questions. But then Sunday night, I got a call from the producers telling me that when they submitted for the interview a couple of weeks earlier, Fauci's team had asked who the hosts were going to be, and they didn't list my name. They told them Batya and Robbie would be the hosts. They said originally the interview was going to be earlier than when I typically show up.
So they pulled her. So she's normally there, so you would want her to have the ability to ask Fauci questions, and they said nope. You won't be asking questions with Fauci.
And so they didn't think to include me. Now, I dispute this because there have been numerous occasions when a guest who they know I would be particularly interested in talking with is scheduled early, and then they ask me if I want to join to be part of that interview. Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no. But I think obviously interviewing Fauci, of all people, it would have been one of those times to ask me. So I told the producers that they needed to go back to Fauci's team and tell them I'm in the interview, And if you won't agree to do it, then we make a segment about that. We say Fauci wouldn't face us, that it needed to be all of us or none of us, especially since the interview had been moved to later in the day when I'm there. So I made it clear that anything other than this would cause the viewers to lose trust in Rising, and trust is what matters most. The viewers had flocked to Rising for this content, and to let them down like this would just break their trust completely. So they seem to understand this Sunday night. Now the next morning, as I'm ready to join the show and I'm getting ready to do my radar and possibly interview Fauci, I got a phone call from the executive producer telling me that they had made the final decision to not approach Fauci's team, but to instead move forward with the interview without me. They wanted me to come on the show, record a couple of segments, then ask me to leave so that they could interview Fauci. And I expressed that this was a giant mistake, that the viewers would no longer trust the show, that I had told viewers I wouldn't be censored or held back, and how can I go back to the viewers after this and say with a straight face that I'm not being censored or limited? How am I supposed to do that? I mean, there were times in the past when viewers would accuse the show of holding me back or censoring me or limiting me, and it wasn't really the case. It was other circumstances that made it to where I wasn't in the segment. But in this particular case, that wasn't the situation. So what was I supposed to say to viewers after this? How could I say, yeah, you know, it's corporate media, but trust me, guys, I'm not being censored or held back? I mean, up until this point, it was true, but after this, I wouldn't be able to say that. And that would make me a liar, and it would put my reputation at risk because I made promises to the viewers. And so, because of all of this, I am no longer with Rising. Now, I want to say there are a lot of really good people who work at Rising. The team is amazing, and I had a really great time over this past year being on that show. I don't regret a single moment of it, and I also want that show to be successful because there are so many great people working there. And I hope for the sake of those great people working there, who are now worried about their jobs, that those who are making the editorial decisions will go forward making better choices, understanding that viewers' trust is the most important thing. It's the only thing. And the only way to gain and maintain that trust is to keep your integrity. And sometimes, in order to keep your integrity, you have to make a tough choice. So that's it. Going forward, I will be posting Monday through Thursday on my channels on Rockfin, YouTube, Rumble, and Locals. So you're still going to get those great pieces from me that you're used to getting. You're just going to be seeing them someplace else. And I hope you join me.
She is the consummate professional. So well said. No drama, no beef. I'm going to be out here in a second. I put the link to the Discord in the chat if you want to continue the conversation. Angry Canuck says, I was so ignorant before February this year 2022. Yeah, for me, it was Black Lives Matter 2020. So many people. That's the other part of the LP National. I keep going back to that, but when Trump said that thing about Santa Claus, it was in the before times. At that time, that literal time, January 2020, I was blue-pilled. Didn't know what the hell was going on. I followed stuff. I watched corporate media. I still do. But I just watched it and absorbed it. And it wasn't even the Mueller report. It wasn't even Trump's whole... So it was a gradual thing. Because I saw the rise of Trump. I followed that very closely. And all of it just kind of hit me right. And let me show you this article. This article is not the exact article, but it's the exact topic that red-pilled me. This was my red pill moment, was when we talked about, okay, this was going on, this Black Lives Matter stuff was going on, and businesses were locked down. Remember, some churches were locked down. You had to go virtual church. So July 2020, article, why the Black Lives Matter protests didn't contribute to the pandemic surge. They said there's no evidence that it did. So it's an issue that was brought up by many people who support the reopening of businesses. What a radical thought. At that time, we had started getting, I think, early data. We were getting early data to figure out what was going on with this thing. And regardless of what was going on with this thing, locking down businesses and choosing, it wasn't all businesses, Clifton Duncan was talking about the liquor stores were open, but he couldn't go on Broadway and perform. Huh? So we're seeing all these inconsistencies. Then all of a sudden, Black Lives Matter comes up on the scene. Remember, this is leading into the general election. So then they come on the scene and they're literally rioting, unchecked. And people are like, okay, well, isn't that a sign that we should just open everything up then if we're just going to be out here in these streets? I think that was part of the reason why they were able to get people out in the streets, because people wanted to get out. The clubs were closed. Everything was down. It became the new club. It became the new thing. It was young people mostly that were out there, fairly young people. And they protected it. They said, no, it didn't lead to any noticeable increase. Interesting word. I think Tim Poole uses a good phrase. I got it from him at least. Weasel words. Did it lead to a noticeable increase? I don't know. What is noticeable to you? Is there any evidence? They say no. There's no evidence. So it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean like the protests weren't super spreader events. It just means we didn't have evidence that they were. I don't know. Maybe go find some. Did you find it, or did you look, or did you try? They said there was no peer-reviewed studies or papers. Did anybody try to do one? At that point, I was just like, something's not. So I wasn't totally red-pilled, but I was like, that's around the time when I said, I'm going to start, maybe I need to start talking about this. I need to ask questions. I need to get a voice. That's when it started. I think that's literally right around when my channel started. And I followed every second of the George Floyd trial. I still disagree with a lot of people on the channel, a lot of people out there. I do not think that there was enough evidence to convict. We don't know how George Floyd even died. A lot of people didn't even watch the full footage. I asked them about it. Did you know about what happened? Did you know how much he had in him? Did you know that there's conflicting views on the coroner's report? They don't know how he died. I looked at him like, did you see the size of Chauvin? Did you see how big George Floyd was? And I'm like, I seriously don't think Chauvin could have unlived me if he wanted to. I don't think he was big enough or strong enough. Much less George Floyd, who was much bigger, much stronger, and hopped up on who God knows what. Well, we do know what. Different drugs, speedball. So, and then I'm like, wow, can't get a fair trial, all this. So I just kept going down the rabbit hole and learning more and more. Then I found out about the Australian response. Then there was this dude that used to be on Twitter. He got banned from Twitter. That really opened my eyes. It was Michael Singer, is his name? Singer. I got his book. Usually have it right here. Right now, I don't think it's right by me. But his book was how China, snake oil, how China kind of influenced the whole world with the lockdowns. I'm like, where does Australia get this from? Then I found out Australia was a police state. We literally founded as a police state. And just went down the rabbit hole from there. That's how I got up, found out about Eric July. Eric July was one of the best. Dave Smith was one of the best. Comic Dave Smith, Robbie the Fire Bernstein on the pandemic early on. They were on top of it, talking about liberty. I'm like, man, if you can't sell liberty in the middle of this, then you never will be able to. Yes, Ray Studio says I should talk about that more. Ray, thank you for that. I might do a segment on that. So there's a channel that Carlos has. Carlos is somebody who I've done lives with Ray Studio. Me and Carlos love those. Carlos is great, man. From talking to him, just seemed like a great guy. And he's got a channel, and I love his channel. The kind of theme from his channel is, it's like we are the kind of the populist right. Latinos, the Hispanic populist right, and they are rising on up. Man, see, that's why it frustrates me too when Michael Tracy and Caitlin Johnstone don't understand the populist right and they misrepresent it. The populist right is the most diverse political movement in our country. You've got black people, you've got white people, you've got women, you've got all backgrounds from Cuba, Venezuela, Mexico. It's the most diverse movement. People with, slightly different political views, all in one. Some people who are MAGA were former Bernie supporters. Literally, were Bernie, voted for Trump in 2016. Were Bernie in 2020, voted for Trump in 2020. Voted for Obama. Officer Tatum voted for Obama. I voted for Obama twice. We saw somebody in the chat say they voted for Obama. And I don't know if they're MAGA or not, but a lot of people now identify it's the most diverse political movement. And they try to label it as some type of craziness. It's funny. Never stop learning. News Politics says never stop learning, always be skeptical. I agree. Trust no one. Was it Fox Mulder that said that? Trust no one. Ryan Smart says that's why I think it's crazy they were talking about gun control after the summer of love. Yeah, that's bananas. People went out and they got their pieces. I did not. I'm not a gun guy. That's the coddling. I've been coddled by the state. Never learned. If we were in the wild, wild west with no police, everybody would know how to use weapons. You'd be lean, mean, strong, fit, because you would have to be to survive. But you're right. After the summer of love, you're talking about gun control. Are you out of your mind? That couple, was it in, I forget if it was St. Louis or wherever it was, pointing the piece at the protesters. I don't like that they did that, but I think the problem was just pointing it. They could have had them out. I don't know the laws there, but I don't want any violence or anything like that, but we know what that movement was doing. And I saw today average police response in New York City is 2.5 hours, and they got you hemmed up and waiting for months to get your piece. And their response is 2.5 hours. And then they've got more immigration problems too, so it's going to increase probably. Ensign Ricky says, libertarian is the way to go. Love it. And I consider myself, I have to look this up. Does this make sense to say that libertarianism is a populist concept? I haven't looked that up. I view it as, that's how I do view libertarianism as a populist ideology. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if that's a classification that makes sense or not. But so you've got populist left, right, and libertarianism is a populist thing. Libertarianism is the way to go because it's basically you do you and I'll do me. That's what it is. And we want to avoid conflict. Metalopoly says, oh, I'm 100% MAGA now. It's our only hope, in my opinion. Word. I'm gonna, I have shirts. I have a shirt that says Plaid MAGA. I'm gonna have one that says Super MAGA. I'm gonna do all the MAGA shirts. So I'm identifying it. You gotta kind of explain what it means, but so you can say I'm MAGA now. Doesn't mean I'm gonna vote for Trump necessarily. So you probably would call me MAGA friendly, but I agree with you. It is our only hope right now. They're the only movement right now. Agree completely. Somebody argues. I don't know how you could argue something else. I mean, it's not a fact, it's an opinion. But if you don't agree with the corporate Democrats and Republicans, who's a better hope for our future than MAGA? I don't even understand what the argument against that would be. Ryan Spar says, I spray painted MAGA in the street on July 4th. Alleged. Good one, Ryan. I love. You know where I got that from? I think I got that from Jim Rome. That was my dude, man. I don't know if he still does his show. Somebody was asking me because they were a fan too in the chat. I don't know if he still does his show, but I love Jim Rome. I think he would always say, he would say the craziest thing, and he would need to say it legally, I think, to cover himself. Then he would say, allegedly. I wonder if Alex Jones had done that, would he be covered? They're going after him no matter what. But Ryan's like, somebody might have, on July 4th, outside the crib over here or somewhere over here, somebody might have spray painted MAGA in the street. Allegedly. I love that. Mediopoly says the Libertarian Party has too many weirdos, too permissive. Is it submissive? What's permissive? Sorry, let me look that up. What does permissive mean? Like you need permission? I'm sorry. Is it too derisive? Sorry, let me look up the definition. Permissive. Deficient in firm. Okay. Your vocabulary is better than mine. Deficient in firmness or control, so too loose. The Mises, I'm interpreting that as you're saying they're too willy-nilly. And that was my problem, too, with them. I think I became a member of the Libertarian National Party. I have to get up with the Colorado one to see what that's about. That's where I'm at. But they're not that anymore. They are structured. That's really the only reason I got involved and tried to provide feedback to the Libertarian New Hampshire account. Because I respect the hell out of Dave Smith and everyone else who's, Michael Heiss, who's put the work in to get to where they are now. Respect the hell out of them. And they've organized that party to make it something. And Angela McArdle, they put these meetings up on YouTube, and I watched some of them, and she's about her business. She dots her I's, crosses her T's. She is impressive. Angela McArdle, Libertarian National Party chair. Wonderful. Wow. Go search the Libertarian National Party on YouTube. It's boring stuff, but you see, like, wow, this is what it takes to do a political movement. They're not permissive anymore, a Mediopoly. They're not. They're getting, but they'll have to prove it to you. Don't take my word for it. But I really respect where they're going. They're more strategic. That's why this LPNH account, it didn't fit with how they move. They move strategically. It is weirdos, but I've always felt more comfortable with kind of people who are misfits. Always have, my whole life. I look back to when we used to play football, tackle football in the snow. One of my favorite things to do is play tackle football in the snow. Man, it was so much fun. You can play tackle anytime, but the snow was the safest. I always wanted to be on the underdog team. I never wanted to be on the team that won. That looked on paper to be the beast team. It just wasn't fun for me. Even when I played video games and I made super teams on NBA 2K. Michael Redd's one of my favorite players of all time. Shooting guard, Milwaukee, Ohio State. And I would use him, and he would be my starting shooting guard. Other people would have Jordan and Kobe and Vince Carter. And I would give him that work. I still have videos on another channel where I recorded myself playing NBA 2K, destroying people with lesser teams. Because it's about the chemistry. I wanted teams that fit. Like I would have Patrick Beverly at point guard, Michael Redd as shooting guard, and people would be like, "I'm gonna wreck you." I got Gary Payton at point guard. But do you have chemistry? Do you know how to use them? I'm okay with being with weirdos. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if that's a fair description, but I don't disagree with it. I don't want to label anybody, but I agree with your description. Now, you might be talking about the weirdos that undress on stage and talk about that being liberty. No. Those weirdos are gone. They don't have any power in the Libertarian Party anymore. It's just it's nerd weirdos. It's economist weirdos. It's like weirdos of different segments of society. It's good weirdos. Playing football in the rain and the mud. You could call me a wimp. I hated the rain, man. And I played football just until 9th grade, but I was a tight end, defensive end. I loved playing cornerback, but I was too slow. I hated playing football in the rain. It was so messy. Like at some point you don't care anymore, but it's just kind of sloppy. I loved it in the snow or if it fall where it wasn't too hot. I hate playing football in the hot too. Get tired in the fourth quarter. NBA 2K was awesome. I used to play all the time. My wife asked me, like, "Man, you don't play video games? It's been a minute." It's been a long time. I haven't played video, and I bought a Xbox Series X. Opened it. Literally have not played it. Literally haven't even plugged it in and hooked it up yet. I've had it for, I don't know, maybe a year now. I've always been a video game guy and console. And it's almost like I went through the motions and bought the new console, just like that's what I always have been. And now I'm in a different place. Like if I have time, like I'm watching stuff, I'm researching stuff nonstop. If I'm not with the kids, not with the wife, not working, nonstop. Even sometimes if I'm doing busy work in the background, I'll have Tim Pool on. But if I'm working, I can't have a distraction. Jordan is the GOAT. Even though I don't agree with him politically, LeBron is my dude. But yeah, 6 rings, hard to complain or to contest that. Bird is that dude, man. Bird is, yeah. And rest in peace, since we're talking about basketball, Bill Russell, rest in peace. Great player. He was before my time, but I've seen some of his old footage, and my understanding is I've seen him in video games too, but kind of like a Ben Wallace, or like a better version. That's probably disrespectful to say. A better version, though. Hell of a defender. Good player. Rest in peace. Ron Paul is the GOAT. News Politics says, I think you're great for being a nonconformist, Osiris. Thank you. Thank you for being open to it. And you're probably a nonconformist yourself, News Politics. Thank you for being open-minded. That's why I've embraced this alt room. It's like people respect each other. PC Ensign Ricky says he's a PC gamer. PCs were intimidating because it was like you had to get your graphics card and put them together. If you got them pre-built, it was expensive and not as fun, and I never got into it. But I would love to have a built PC now. If I won the lotto, I would get that 1.3 billion lotto. Oh yeah. Ray Sewell said I got to take a trip out to Iowa. I wasn't even that far from Iowa. I was in Minnesota on my vacation. In rural part, it was way up there. Rural parts of Minnesota. Good time. All the rural parts in the Midwest I've been to, love it. I told my wife, like, man, I used to want to believe this in the blue pill days. This is like 2014 to 2016ish. I was like, if I won the lotto, that 1.3 billion that I think somebody won, I would want a crib in San Francisco. San Francisco is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. It saddens me so much what's happened to San Francisco. It's funny what segments I've done that came out better than I thought. I have a segment on the other channel. I actually really like listening to it. It's about San Francisco and how it kind of went south. But man, I love that. That city was so good, so beautiful. Went to there was an Asian themed park out there, and they got regular parks, and then they got the ocean. Man, got the aquarium. I went to the science museum and good eating restaurant. So sad. But if I won the lotto now, we were driving. I told my wife, like, shoot, South Dakota. The only problem is medical help. You're out in some certain rural parts of you could probably get Starlink internet. Upload won't be good, but you could get internet. The problem is, and my wife brought this up, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Not that we could, but I was like, man, you could get a ranch out there, get a couple we love border collies, get a bunch of border collies. We got one now. Retirement maybe. I don't know if we're lucky enough and save up, but the problem is healthcare is one of the big problems. And schools, but if you win a lotto, you could homeschool. But you don't need you don't need a lot of money to homeschool. So let me not put that misnomer out there. But for us, we're not making the sacrifice. We're still putting the kids through public school, which is a scary thing right now. But if you break your leg in the middle of some places of Nebraska and South Dakota, we're driving in these rural areas, and they're like the nearest civilization's like 50 miles, and it's a town of like 300 people. You're in the middle of nowhere. Something comes up medically, I don't know how they deal it. You got to get helicoptered. I don't know if you call an ambulance. I I don't know how. It's got to take like 5 hours to get there. Where's they coming from? I don't even know how they do it. If you know about rural parts, I should ask somebody. But, you know, we pulled over to the side of the road. We were in some really windy and hilly roads out there in Nebraska driving. I think it was Nebraska, South Dakota, one of them. And my son threw up. We give him Dramamine, but he threw up. So we pulled over to kind of make sure he's okay, clean it all up. And you got a car pulled over out there. If you're in trouble, man, you're going to be out there. You're probably going to be camping. And people were nice enough to kind of roll through and say, hey, you okay? Scary stuff. GB says, both of my parents were born in San Francisco. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. The West Coast is over. I don't want to think that, man, GB. I can't. I can't bring myself to. Don't blame you. You would know better than I would, but I just can't. I refuse to believe that. I think we were seeing the tide turn. What they're doing with the school board, the recall, MAGA is the movement. Even, you know, obviously there's not many MAGA in San Francisco. MAGA is leading the way for them too. To make political change to get right. I refuse to be. It can't be over. Now, I have chatted with people and I said, you got to get the hell out of there, because it's not going to get better tomorrow. That's for sure, and it's dangerous. There's that one video there's just so many videos coming out. There's one video guy just casually runs up to the car, breaks in to the car, takes a backpack and is off. Casual. Not even like worried about it, just masked up. Really crazy stuff. So it feels like it's over, that's for sure. But I think we can. California might be tough, but we've got to fix this. We can't. I talked to my sons. I said, and they're getting older. You know, one's almost 6 now. He's 5, but 5 and 3. And they're becoming a little destructive. So getting them toys and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, this toy is going to be a collector's toy. So you can play with it, but it's more like keep it on your dresser. It's easier to destroy things than it is to protect them and to maintain them or to even improve them. I don't want you banging toys and breaking things and just randomly stepping on toys. I'm like, man, I didn't have 1/10 of the amount of toys you guys had. So if I had a G.I. Joe, I didn't want that. And I had G.I. Joes. It was big back in the day. And I had a G.I. Joe. I didn't want his arm to break off. I wasn't going to get another one. Got too many toys. That's why kids have these attention deficiency syndromes. In my opinion. I'm not a doctor. Just with no proof, I can have an opinion. That's my opinion. Part of it is, you know, watching TV, no commercials even, fast forwarding, on demand, whatever show you want. When I watched cartoons, I had to wait till the next week or the next day to watch G.I. Joe or He-Man or whatever I was, Legend of Zelda, whatever I was watching. And I couldn't fast forward through the commercials. I mean, little things like that, and they add up, and they're on their, you know, I don't have my kids on stuff, but you got kids, well, they do. In the car, they were on iPads, but not daily. But in school, they are. So you got the iPads and all that. They all have attention deficiency. They can't stay still, very destructive. And I'm not. And I talked to my wife, I'm not drugging them up. That ain't going to be the way. We can find a way, but that won't be it. And they haven't been diagnosed. I was like, I don't even want them to be tested for that attention stuff. We might, you know, but I don't think. What's the point? I already know they got it. Look how they act. We gave it to them. Now how are we gonna fix it? I don't know how I got into that topic, but thanks, GB. Ray Studio says, when I have kids, they're not allowed to use the internet. I will pre-screen everything they watch. Yeah, it's going to be scary when they get to that. My kids are young. They're not there yet. But somewhat. They're on the tablet. And, my 5-year-old can choose his own YouTube show. So I got him restricted, but yeah, I agree. I'm going to really try to hold off as long as I can for TikTok, especially. TikTok is the one. Once they get on that, I mean, it's any social media, and I had no idea how Tumblr was bad. Actually, it was Posobiec and Tim Pool that were talking about Tumblr was the original one that came out bad. I've never been on well, I've been on there, but I've not a lot. I didn't know it was that influential. Yeah, kids have energy, so I might be overreacting, Ryan. Metalopoly says the leftists are like a virus. They make their own cities unlivable, then they move to red states and bring their voting habits with him. No lies detected. Sound like the Agent Smith in the Matrix. Yeah, TikTok is Joe Rogan was talking about it, and his kids are on there. There's this clip Joe Rogan's talking about, like, have you read the terms of service? And I'm like, no, I have not read the terms of service. And I'm like, I think in the back of my mind, there's a reason why I haven't read the terms of service. So he brings it up, and he's like, have you seen the terms of service of this thing? And I did watch this clip. I'll probably end on this because I got to get to sleep. But
Chaz, your IP address, user region, this is really crazy. User agent, mobile carrier, time zone settings, identifiers for advertising purpose, model of your device, the device system, network type, device IDs, your screen resolution and operating system, app and file names and types. So all your apps and all your file names.
TikTok has access to your file names and types. Oh my God.
All the things you have filed away on your phone.
A Chinese company. Data is currency. Data is power. If you get enough data, I played, what's his name? Gosh, why do I always forget his name? Is it Yuri? Ray Studios is going to bring it up. But Naval or whatever his name is, whatever. The second in charge dude, Harari, he's like, if we have enough data, we can tell you if you're 78% gay or something like that. Literally. He said, if we have enough data, we can tell if you're like 90% straight. Now, what they're doing with this data, I don't know, man, but data is power.
They have access to that. File names and types. Keystroke patterns or rhythms. So they're monitoring your keystrokes, which means they know every fucking...
They're monitoring your keystrokes, patterns, and rhythms. That means they literally know what you're typing, or can. I don't know if they're actually transcribing that, if they, but they looks like they could at least try. What we're agreeing to on these free apps.
Thing you type. Wow. Battery state, audio settings, and connected audio devices where you log in from multiple devices. We will be able to use your profile information to identify your activity across devices. We may also associate you with information collected from devices other than those you use to log into the platform, meaning they can use other computers that you're not even using to log into TikTok. They can suck the data off that. That's what you're agreeing to.
That's insane. It's this is an enemy country, not the people, but the government. This is not a friendly country. We're frenemies. We trade, we have agreements, and we work together. I don't know how long that's going to be lasting, but we're agreeing to this. Look at his face. He's like, "Oh my goodness." I've never read the terms and agreement. I think in the back of my head, I'm like, I know I don't want to. I did that video where I showed TikTok was literally changing the shape of this woman's face with a filter, and it wasn't a filter that she could turn on or off. So they can change the shape of where you look in the app and then they can kind of track how you react to it. They got your facial data. So what if China wanted to do an electric pulse type of weapon? They would know exactly where to put it. They know where everybody's at. They know how much battery's on your phone. They would be able to put that in an AI, like all the data, because that's so much data. A human can't do anything with millions upon billions of data points. You put it in a powerful computer. This is how we're going to get self-driving through Tesla. They just take all the data points of when the car did the wrong thing, and then eventually, once we get enough, you'll get it. So they'll put that on there, and they'll say, hey, where's the best time to drop this impulse, this EMP? And the computer will say, just like they'll say, when's the best time to upload your YouTube video? The computer will say, Sunday at 5 p.m., maximum whatever you want, or minimum whatever you want. This powerful stuff. It's weird how they turned on Joe Rogan. He's a classic liberal. You look at the corporate leftists and the fake populist left, they do nothing but attack him all day. TikTok should be banned. Trump was right about a lot of things, and he said that. TikTok should be banned. No brainer. And not even a topic of discussion. TikTok was banned? Was it banned? Was it banned under Trump? For like a little bit? Yeah. But I'm gonna head out, get some sleep. Got to get up early, get going. Good thing about the show, I've dropped the energy drinks. I got this tea. This tea is good. I like it. It's healthier. I think it's healthier. It's still caffeine, but no sugar. All natural. I think it's all natural. So I got a tea. I like that. Maybe I should go get a sponsor. For a while, Monster was going to be the sponsor, but my wife was very happy to see. But here's the thing: I got to work out. I got to get right, and I can't do that. I knew the energy drink wasn't going to go forever, but it was just an option to get by. But fun live, just hanging out. Be doing this as much as possible. It's late. I know it's late. I hate having to do it late, but family responsibilities always play a role. Yeah, I'm out. Take care, everybody.